see if Mr. Gruber has a scientific method for getting cows out of the corn. Mr. Gruber? Mr. Gruber? Mr. Gruber? The hardest one man to find ever was when there's work to be done. No, that gummed airplane's still there. Must be around somewhere. Mr. Gruber? Gruber?
Oh, morning, Humphrey.
Mr. Gruber, I've been looking all over for you. Gertrude's gone and
Sure
found
a
again.
fine morning, Humphrey. Yes, sir, it sure is. I've been standing here thinking about it. I says to myself, I says, Ollie, this is the kind of a morning makes you glad to be alive and proud to be a farmer.
Didn't you hear me? I say Gertrude's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, I heard you. And that's just a part of it, Humphrey. It just about makes the picture complete. Yes, sir, I always say there's nothing like satisfaction for satisfying a fella. And I'm plumb steeped in satisfaction.
Well, you better be getting a move on.
Oh, I don't know. Fellow ought to take time to count his blessings once in a while, I always say. You know, Humphrey, running a farm is more than an occupation. It's more than a business. It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, if you ask me. Now, there's Gertrude out there.
Oh, now, Humphrey, you've got your neck bowed again. My daddy was a lot like you. He says to me in the summer of 1910, or was it 1911? Anyway, he says to me, Ollie, he says, farming is all calluses and no cash.
He was right, too.
And I says to him, Daddy, I says, science and foresight's going to change all that. You know, Humphrey, I believed in scientific methods and foresight even then, even when I was fresh out of agricultural college.
Science don't mean nothing to Gertrude.
Oh, now, Humphrey, you know very well.
Are you going to stand here gabbing all day? I tell you, Gertrude's finally knocked down the fence and got into the corn.
Holy smokes, why didn't you say so? I thought you meant she'd had her calf. Humphrey, hurry up. Come on, Gertrude's in the corn.
Yes, in the days since Ollie Gruber took over the old homestead, science has done much to advance the art of farming. Machinery has assumed much of the back-breaking labor. Fertilizers, chemical weed killers, and irrigation have increased the yields and the profits. But fences? Well, for all his enthusiasm for scientific methods, Ollie Gruber has still been living in 1910 when it comes to fences, still depending on scrub posts cut from his farm.
Gertrude always has had a grudge against fences.
Yep, and she finally made it.
She's a persistent critter, all right. Still, she hadn't ought to have got through here. Why, this post hasn't been in the ground more than 3 years.
Well, just something about this ground no post can stand. Well, move over.
What'd you say, Humphrey?
I said you'll have to move over so I can get the auger started.
Oh.
We got a fence to fix.
No. As a matter of fact, Humphrey, I'll tell you what. I think we better hold off on this fencing. I'm going to have to peruse this matter.
For what it?
Never mind. You just keep an eye on Gertrude as best you can. I won't be long. Now, you mark my words. I'll be back before you know it.
Not before the chorin's done.
To Humphrey Pottle, the ways of Ollie Gruber seem strange. After 15 years as his hired man, Humphrey still finds it hard to adjust to Ollie's lightning changes. And Ollie Gruber? Well, when the lightning strikes Ollie, it always strikes in the direction of a new and better way to do things.
It is my best customer.
Hi, George.
How are things out at your place, Ollie?
It started off fine this morning, George. And then Gertrude, that's my prize cow, broke off a fence post and got into the corn. I say this is the time for foresight. Stands to reason if one post is rotten, a lot of them are. I'm going to set that whole fence new. And this time, I want me some of them treated posts.
Yes, sir, Ollie. I know what you mean. There you are, pentaposts.
No, I mean treated posts.
Now don't let the fact that it's clean fool you, Ollie. It's treated. With the best protection there is, too. Penta.
Penta, huh? Well, now that's a new one on me. And I always say to myself, Holly, keep your eyes open and your ears peeled because you might learn something. All right, George, I'm listening. I want to find out all you know about this Penta stuff.
This Penta stuff, as Ollie calls it, is the answer that chemists and the science of chemistry have found for the twin problems of rot and termite destruction in wood. Both problems originate in the soil. When wood is in contact with the ground, it falls prey to voracious swarms of termites, eating their way upward, honeycombing and destroying the wood. And destructive dampness, which leads to wood rot, also comes from the soil. Here you see a block of wood that has been buried. The soil has kept the wood damp, just as it keeps a fence post damp, an ideal culture condition for the rot-producing fungi. But see the difference in a similar block of wood treated with Penta. Even though the soil is just as damp, just as infested with termites, the wood remains sound. Penta makes the wood safe from attack, not only on the surface, but completely through to the heart. Penta itself is a dry solid that looks something like gray rock salt, but unlike salt, Penta will not dissolve in water, only in oil. At the treating plant, Penta is dissolved in oil heated to proper temperatures to increase its penetrating powers. And then whole carloads of dry peel posts or lumber stock are run into the giant pressure cylinders. Here is wood on its way to longer life and greater value. Wood that will withstand the elements as wood has never been able to before. For every cubic foot of this wood will soon contain more than 1/3 of a pound of Penta. And now the heavy doors clang shut. The bolts go into place. With the whine of the bolt setter, the cylinder is sealed, ready to be filled with a hot oil solution of Penta under high pressure. Up, up, up. The gauges mount until the wood is pressured full. Hours later, the pressure falls. A vacuum is drawn. A vacuum that removes all the excess oil, so that Penta-treated wood is clean and dry. The door opens. The wood comes out. Wood that is still easy to handle, free from ooze or irritants. Wood that is still clean and dry on the surface. But wood with a new chemical plus factor. Wood with Penta locked in to form a permanent barrier against its enemies, rot, termites, and other boring insects. And Penta-treated wood is so clean and dry it can be handled without gloves. It does not irritate the skin. Yet 30 years from now, with or without painting, your Penta-treated wood will still be serving you, still be as sound as you see it today. Power and communications companies using Penta-treated poles expect 30 to 35 years of service, and you can count on it too. Yes, wherever wood is in contact with the soil, Penta increases its permanence as much as 8 to 10 times, whether it's in fence posts, in economical and easy-to-construct pole buildings, or portable rain shelters that need no foundations, in mud sills and joists, in the wood of bunker-type silos, and in permanent floored structures like chicken houses or corn cribs. Wood, the finest material of construction, armored indefinitely against its natural enemies, rot and termites, protected by Penta, a triumph of chemistry over one of the farmer's most vexing problems.
George, you've talked me into it. But before I give you my order, I'm going to tell you something I hope you won't take the wrong way. Now, I don't mean to tell you how to run your business. Far from it. But if it was me selling stuff, I wouldn't be sitting here with just posts. Foresight, George, a businessman's got to use foresight.
Well,
Now, you take me, for instance. With all the calves I got coming on, I need me a new barn. Trouble was, I couldn't see my way clear to putting it up this year. But holy smokes, I could throw up a pole barn pretty cheap and pretty easy. And if it was made out of Penta poles and Penta lumber, why, it would serve me as long as I wanted. Now, like I said, George, I'm not one for sticking my nose in the other fellow's business. Far from it. But you sure are missing a bet, George. You sure are. Well, you ought to have poles and lumber treated with this Penta stuff. You know they'd go like hotcakes to us farmers that use a little foresight. Now, George, why don't you...
Ollie.
Huh?
Ollie,
What
come
you say?
outside with me a minute. Come on. There you are, Ollie. All the Penta poles and lumber you need. Anytime you're ready. You know, when I first got the idea, I worried about how much inventory it'd take. But I found out that 18 sizes would cover practically everything. Joists, poles, sills, splashboards.
Grannies, George, I got to hand it to you. You're a pretty shrewd customer.
Ollie. You're the shrewd customer.
Oh, what in thunderation's all that?
Fence posts, Humphrey. The most in posts. You know, I always say there's something good in everything. Now, you take Gertrude getting into the corn when she knocked over that rotted out post. Well, it was kind of hard to see the good in that. But I got to studying that post. As I recollect, it hadn't been in the ground more'n 3 years. And I says to myself, Ollie, I says, there's got to be an answer. We can't keep breaking our backs building fences. There's got to be a scientific solution. And there it is, Humphrey, my boy. Penta-treated fence posts.
Penta, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a fancy name for a skinning to me. I'll bet you paid a pretty penny for those.
That's where you're wrong, Humphrey. That's where you're wrong. I only paid 85 cents for these posts.
85 cents? Oh, Mr. Gruber, and you can get a perfectly good post for 35.
I knew you'd bite on that, Humphrey. I knew you'd bite on that, yes, sir. Sure, you can get posts for 35 and lose money doing it.
Oh, no, Mr. Gruber, I wasn't born yesterday.
Well, neither was Gertrude's calf. And when he does get here, he'll have 10 or 12 sets of grandkids before these posts give out. Oh, that's a fact, Humphrey. So I'm getting them pretty cheap, if you ask me. Now, you average the cost of these posts over 30 years, and it comes up, now, let's just see. 30 into 85, that's less than 3 cents a year.
Mr. Gruber, did you say 30 years?
That's what I said, my boy. Your 35-cent post will last you 5 years if you're lucky. That's 7 cents a year for it. Less than 3 cents against 7 cents for an untreated post?
30 years. Why, we've set posts 3 times in the last 15.
Well, that's right. Just think of the labor we'll save, not to mention the cost of the posts. Like I told my old daddy in 1910, science and foresight is taking the drudgery out of farming. I said to him then, I said, Daddy, now look here.
Mr. Gruber, you can talk to your daddy if you want to. I'm going to set some posts.
Well.
Yeah, sun up to sunset. Anybody said it's not a lot of work to run a farm.
But doesn't it make you feel good, Humphrey? The satisfaction of putting up something new and clean with your own 2 hands. I tell you, there's nothing like satisfaction for satisfying a fella.
Well, that may be all right for you, but my main satisfaction is that this is going to stay put for 30 years. I still can't get over it.
Yes, sir. That Penta's sure wonderful stuff.
Yep, 30 years. Well, it sounds awful good to me, but it's going to be a terrible blow to Gertrude.